French Creek watershed is really an amazing place. The Nature Conservancy calls it one of the last great places in America, along with Yellowstone Park.
The French Creek itself starts in western New York State, and it flows for about 117 miles from New York State and joins the Allegheny River at Franklin. It's a sizable piece of landscape.
Throughout history, it was more than scenic beauty that captured the attention of people in the area.
Back in the 1750s, the French learned from the Native Americans that if they paddled along the Great Lakes, they would reach a point, which is now about Erie, that they could portage their canoes just 14 miles and go into the Mississippi watershed and thus access New Orleans. And the governor of Virginia chose a young 21-year-old captain in the Virginia militia by the name of George Washington to trek up there in the late fall and go tell the French to leave. He delivered the letter. The French gave him a letter basically saying no. And the following spring was the beginning of the French-Indian War. If you go back to prior to the previous glacial era, French Creek actually was thought to flow north into the Great Lakes watershed. And when the last glaciers came, it blocked it, rerouted it, and it now flows into the Allegheny River. And so it's part of the Mississippi watershed. And because of that, it still retains species from both.
Two of the most endangered groups of organisms in North America right now are freshwater mollusks and freshwater fish. And French Creek has incredible diversity of both of those taxonomic groups.
It is known nationally as one of the most biologically diverse waterways in the country.
Globally significant populations of freshwater mussels.
And these are imperiled because of changing land use, siltation, channelization, increasing water temperature because of cutting down of riparian forest.
One of the great things about the natural world is you have this incredible diversity that keeps everything in balance. You start interrupting that balance and you don't know where that tipping point is.
Working to maintain that balance is the French Creek Conservancy, a nonprofit organization dedicated to preserving a waterway often referred to as Colonial Stream. Historically significant and virtually unchanged since the days of colonial America.
They were concerned about the careless spraying of herbicides in Conneaut Lake. And the group grew to be concerned with other environmental issues as well.
I was approached by John Oliver from Western Pennsylvania Conservancy and Brian Hill at that time with Pennsylvania Environmental Council that they were interested in doing a project that they called Conservation Through Cooperation.
Having partnerships is vital. We have some big brothers that we lean on. Western Pennsylvania Conservancy is one, the Nature Conservancy, Audubon, Pennsylvania.
And have them doing everything they can to support us to grow into a self-sustainable organization.
It should be in every hunter's and fisherman's interest to preserve biotic diversity, to preserve habitat quality for game and non-game species.
I don't think we have to sell them on why they should. I think we need to provide the resources to help them do it.
We organize events throughout the year, with our major event being the French Creek Cleanup on the first Saturday after Labor Day in September every year.
We turned it into a competitive event.
It's open to all sorts of groups in the watershed, education groups, any sort of municipal nonprofit groups.
And we give out cash prizes for most junk, we give out cash prizes for most unusual. But we have an absolute blast. They get 25,000 pounds of junk out of the creek.
We've always been an advocate for responsible use of the resources in the area because it's an economic draw. It creates jobs, it creates recreational opportunities for the residents and beyond.
We have a marvelous opportunity to sit with industry. Let them understand that we own French Creek Valley and we care about French Creek.
Try and create a working partnership as opposed to throwing stones partnership, which often tends to be the case between environmental groups and industry officials.
The whole Conservation Through Cooperation format was working together as opposed to the heavy hand of government or some other entity coming in and dictating what you should do.
We're very fortunate that we have a great healthy stream here, and we're not trying to bring something back from the dead.
We can actually use that as a biodiversity repository and perhaps even transplant some of those mussels and clams, put them back into watersheds from which they've been extirpated.
It costs a lot more to bring something back from the dead than it does to keep it alive and healthy.
What I hope you do is that you take into account taking care of French Creek in all things you do that might have an impact.